In this video, I'll teach you how to change the belts on a Mars VFM series bill validator. For this project, you'll need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a number 1 Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and some pliers. First, you take your number 2 screwdriver and remove the 3 faceplate screws. Then you'll pull up on the faceplate, take that off, and then turn it over on its side. Then you'll remove these 5 screws with your number 2 Phillips. Then you'll turn it over onto the other side and use your screwdriver to remove the 2 board box screws. The screws won't come out completely from the board box. You'll just loosen them enough so that you can remove it. Pull up. Then unplug these 3 cords here. Once you have that off, you remove this frame by removing these 2 screws. Then lift the frame off. Then remove the 4 screws that were underneath it. Once you've done that, this entire lower piece slips out. Pull it forward. You got it out. Next, you'll pull back on the silver piece and pull forward on the gold piece to separate these 2 units and unplug the cords connecting them. Then you'll set the silver piece aside and turn the gold piece upside down and pull up on this top piece. It just pulls off. And set the lower part aside, turn it back over, and remove these top 3 screws using your number 1 Phillips. This will release the metal piece from the plastic piece, so you'll separate those 2. Then turn it over. You get to the belts by removing the clamps that are on either side of the bar. So position the bar so that the opening is up on the top. Then use your flathead screwdriver, push down to pry it off. Then this whole gold panel just lifts right off the bar. Then you'll do the same thing on the other side. Position the clamp, pry it off, and remove the gold panel. Then you remove the belts just by pushing them off with your thumbs. There are 2 types of belts for this part. One of them looks like this. You'll see a crevice in the plastic wheel right here and a ridge on the inside of the belt itself. So you see that ridge right here. The other kind have these spokes on the plastic wheel. So you pull the belts off, and it's a little harder because you have to pull them over the spokes. And you'll notice the wheels have no crevice and the belts have no ridge. Then when you put your new belts back on, you just have to wiggle them over the spokes that are on the outside, fit it in, make sure it's completely in there. Then for these belts, you just slide them back on. You have to make sure the ridge and the inside of the belt fits into the crevice on the plastic wheel. Next, we'll put this whole piece back together, starting by putting the gold panels back on. Slip it over the bar, get your clamp, slip it into the crevice, hold it there, and then use your pliers to clip it back in. Then turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. Piece back on, then you get your clamp and slip it into the little crevice, hold it there, and use your pliers to clip it on. Okay, now we got to put it back together, so grab the plastic piece, slip it over the bar, and line up the holes to fit over the holes in the plastic, and put your 3 screws back in using your number 1 Phillips screwdriver. Okay, now that's done. You set that aside and grab the lower piece that has the other belts on it. Turn it over and remove these 3 screws. Then you remove the plastic part just by pulling it off, and now you have access to the belts. To remove them, just slide them off of the wheels and pull them out. And to put them back on, you just slide them onto the wheels the same way you slid them off. Now once the belts are back on, you'll put the plastic part back over it. Now you'll have to make sure it goes on correctly, that the little wheel is free moving and the tab is free moving. Turn it back over. Also check to make sure your cable comes out. Then you'll put your 3 screws back in using your number 2 screwdriver. The bigger piece slides right inside the smaller piece. They line up with this little tab here. Then position the gold piece so that all the holes line up. And you'll start putting screws in, starting with this corner. One below it. And the one over here on the side. And then turn it over. You'll want to do the same thing on this side in the same 3 places. Then you'll slip the flat side of the gold piece under the little silver piece, and then you'll plug in your yellow and red cords. Now your unit will look like this. Now you turn it on this side only and add a screw to hold on the silver part to the gold part. You'll leave the other side empty for now. And now it's ready to be reattached to the rest of the validator. The little bar that holds the wheels on will slip into these tabs, right in. Then turn it over on its side, and you'll screw in your last screw for that side, bolting it onto the rest of the validator. Then you'll turn it over to the other side, and put a screw in that same hole on this side. Next, you'll take the small gold frame that the board box bolts onto. You'll slip the cords in where they belong, slip it into position, and put your 2 screws back in that hold that frame on. Then you'll take your board and you'll plug it all back in. You'll turn it face down, lining it up with the frame, and then you'll tighten the screws right back into there. Okay, now you just need to put the faceplate on, so turn it on its back. Grab your faceplate, place it on, line it up with the holes, and reinsert your 3 faceplate screws with your number 2 Phillips. Now you've changed the belts on a Mars VFM series build validator.